Okay, good afternoon. Wanted to recognize Ms. Carol Bell, Mayor Pro Tem, and also Bill Durrance, Second District Alderman. This area we're talking about is the area in the downtown area. We call it Historic District. That's the area we're speaking of today. And I'm going to read an official statement and then basically take some questions so that we get the specific things down so that you can work from that. And it says the City of Savannah acknowledges a report of the National Park Service released today. We agree with many of the recommendations and appreciate their emphasis that we are not at risk of losing our landmark designation. Over the past decade, the city has successfully adopted new planning policies to restore the town plan left by us by General Oglethorpe. Together with the private sector, millions of dollars has been invested to save historic homes, buildings, and our cultural landscape. Most recently, the city has been aggressive in its efforts to revisit outdated policies and ordinances to reflect this community's commitment to preservation, quality of life, and economic vitality. We thank the National Park Service for acknowledging our efforts. The report itself states no single entity can care for the historic district alone. In this spirit of collaboration, the city will reach out to our partners to create a panel to study the recommendations and develop an action plan to upgrade our status. Several of these recommendations are already being worked on. I've already spoken with Bob Vogel of the National Park Service and have suggested that we begin a biannual status review. We don't need to wait another 16 years for the next assessment to occur. We look forward to continued progress and working closely with our partners in our collective effort to keep Savannah a great place to live, work, and visit. Thank you. Okay. Anybody got any questions?
The report mentions a few things they'd like to see improvements made on it. Basically preserving the historic town plan.
Yeah, the squares. Yeah.
Also it talks about archaeological ordinance to protect.
Right, which we're in progress. We're actually working on.
I wonder if you could give us an update on the status of that.
Besides saying they're being worked on, that's what I can give you on them. There's two of them. There was archaeology and there was another.
The streets.
Yeah, yeah, and both of those are being worked on through Bridget's group.
Both of them are part of the tourism master plan
yeah.
The council formally adopted.
Yeah, okay. But
do you expect this to be done by the end of the year? Any time range?
I'll find that there's actually a timeline in the tourism master plan for it. I don't have that right now. I can get that for you.
And we also have Mr. Bob Vogel's coming down a couple of weeks. We hope to meet with him again, go over and tell him what we're planning on doing. We suggested this 2-year plan so that we can be proactive on the approach of this thing, because when we came on, we realized that we had to update things, but we didn't realize to what degree we needed to improve our overall plan. So we now know that we need to be aggressive in moving forward, and we need the direction of the Park Service to make sure we do it in the right manner so that we don't, one, kill any growth, but also, two, that we keep our landmark, because that's probably the most important thing we're dealing with here, is to make sure that we develop our properties and we develop our areas so it's in sync with what the National Park Service feels is important.
In line with the recommendation to preserve and try to restore the historic town plan, the city council delayed the sale of the Oglethorpe property to the developer that had plans to develop the mixed-use residential out there on the vacant lot.
We'll look at anything and everything, but we are.
Oglethorpe Lane, can you give us an update on the headway?
We are working. We are working, or want to work, or planning on working as we do something with the civic center and all that. We hope to be able to look at that, possibly returning that square back to its original size and shape and all there also. So we're looking at a number of them. I know we can't do anything about what took place at the Cultural Arts Center. That issue that we have there is out. We can't do anything about that. We've already put the thing there. It's there. and it's going to cause a problem of losing some of the lane area. But in reality, what we want to do is go forward with what we can do and make sure we cover all those bases as we go forward. And this 2-year timetable will give us time to where we're not beating a dead horse here. We want to make it every 2 years and give us time to react to it, our builders to react to it, developers to react to it, and if we see something getting off kilter, it gives us time to call the preservationist in and say, hey, how does this fit? And that's the idea long term.
But has the potential buyer of that specific location indicated they may be able to preserve the Overthorpe Lane after the city council directed them?
That hasn't. We gave them the opportunity to look at it. We haven't got a return. We don't have a yes or no on that. They're still looking at it.
Now, according to that study that they sent out, it said that the city has been threatened before, and most recently that was in 2002. Right now they're saying that's also the same case, and that means that it has suffered or is in danger or severe loss. If you could talk to me a little bit about exactly.
Okay. Well, the last time it was changed back to watchful. Watch.
Satisfactory.
What was that?
Category 3 satisfactory. When it
Satisfactory. Yeah, it was done because basically they moved the bus station out of the historic district. They were going to put originally they were going to put the bus transfer station in downtown area. That got the attention of the Park Service, said can't have that, and so when we went and did that and moved it out of there, we went back to them and said, hey, we're working on making sure this is a historic area. They agreed and they gave us an improvement. So we feel like with the adjustments that we're going to make and the things we're looking at that we're already doing and the things that we can get recommendations from the National Park Service, that we can change this direction and make sure we're secure for the future, because that's the most important thing we can come out of this.
Is it anything that you can point out or reference right now where you believe that had some type of effect? I know recently we've seen we've worked multiple stories where it's come down to zoning ordinances and different things about what's being allowed downtown or not. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
To me, the biggest thing, the one thing the 800-pound gorilla in the area is the government building over there, the Juliet Lowe building. I mean, yeah, that's the big thing. We can't control that, but when the federal government comes in here and starts dropping a large building like that and taking up the lane, then we've asked them to look at it. They've really working with us to try to make that happen. So we feel like that there's some effort on their part to improve that, but things like that are things that the National Park Service can't control it. We can't control it, but we can talk to them and say, hey, we want to keep this status, help us out here, and I think they're working in that direction. So that's the things that we have to look for.
How does it feel? You are the mayor of a very historic city, a city that brings in thousands of people a year, visitors, and just from near and far. That the city is in this state right now.
Yeah. Well, the way I feel, and I don't feel about the visitors. I live downtown historic district. I live there. So that's what it means to me. And I think all the people in the Downtown Neighborhood Association, all those people that have businesses down here, it means the same thing else. We live there because of what it represents and what it is, and the atmosphere that we have and the ambiance you receive and all those different things. That means a lot to a lot of people. And that's what we want to make sure we control. If we take care of the citizens and we take care of the downtown area for our citizens, the visitors will come. It'll take care of itself.
Do you have anything to say? I know you're the alderman for the district.
Well, I would.
It's his district, so he.
Well, there are 4 of us that represent.
Well, I always say
I don't
it's
want
his
all
district.
the blame or credit. One of the things, in line of your question, I think our success is actually part of the reason for this. We have had so much success. We've had so much infill building, and we have had so many changes because of the success over the last decade or so, especially. I think that may be part of the issue that this addresses, that we need to be very cautious about how our success is impacting this. And I think we're trying to do that. I think we have been trying to do that. We've done a number of things like revising our landmark district historic ordinance. We've created a hotel overlay that created both a small and large hotel category that we didn't have before, and created limitations on where hotels can be built. We've put in regulations that manage the level of vacation rental properties that we can have within certain parts of town. So we've done a number of things that help address that. And then in the conference call that we just had with the Park Service, it was the mayor that suggested that we have this two-year review instead of this long-term, where all of a sudden it's gone so long that there's a lot of problems. Having this very quick review regularly will give us the tools to make sure that we're taking care of things better. The other thing that the mayor asked for, which I thought was great, is as we start addressing these issues that they've brought up, can we get you to come back and look at this and give us an update on our status? So the answer was he didn't know if they could actually update the status or not, but at a minimum, if we show evidence that we're doing this work, they will certainly make a public announcement of that, press release, and do what they can to acknowledge the changes that we're making. So we may continue under the status for some period of time, but as soon as we're showing evidence of addressing some of the things that they were concerned about, they're very happy to acknowledge that we've been doing that. And one thing that I would like to say, I've only had a chance to skim through the report briefly, but one of the things that I thanked them for was their acknowledgement that one of the big issues we have is in the longer sense of changes, that very large Juliet Gordon Low building that the Corps of Engineers is in. We had no control over that. And the other thing that they mentioned was the new courthouse annex building that's being worked on right now. They did acknowledge that this was an impact that's coming from the federal government that we have little control over. While at the same time, I do want to say that GSA has been very cooperative with us locally to come up with a design that's much better suited, and we've gone a long way toward getting something that's a much better approach. And I think they'll be at the next historic Board of Review meeting with their plans.
Do you think there was kind of one downfall with everything is the fact that this city hasn't been assessed in the last 16 years, and now you all have to go through all of this, and now you've even suggested for them to come back every 2 years to really look and work with you all to see what can you all do different, what can you all do to make Savannah better?
Sure. You never want to have to fix 16 years of problems when you could be doing 2 years of problems. That just makes so much more sense. It's a much better approach. One of the things that was in the study that they reported to us recently that all of this is based on, I went through and I think there were 25 properties that they indicated were problematic because of demolitions or a couple of other things. Something like 80% of all of that happened in the first 10 to 15 years of the 50-year study. Since 2000, there's only been 2 demolitions that they acknowledged. So we've already got a history of doing better and better. But the more we have these reports on a more frequent basis, the easier it's going to be for us to not only fix things that are a problem, but to anticipate things before they become a problem and address them.
I'm coming on the tail end of this press conference. I apologize if you've already addressed this, but when I met with the Downtown Neighborhood Association months ago when they were first discussing this, they felt that one of the main reasons that this has happened is there's so many codes and regulations that have been brought about over this time period, and they weren't all necessarily in sync. So some of these buildings and what we would call violations to this landmark district have happened because of things falling through the cracks. Can you kind of speak to that?
Oh, anytime you get a group of people together to start making ordinances and laws, you always have a conflict with something down the road that you didn't anticipate. So there are going to be those conflicts, but we feel like that if we can do the reviews that we're going to do on a 2-year basis, we should level out the road where it's not so bumpy, because it's up and down. We'll pass this ordinance and say, "Boy, we got this taken care of," and then you look around the corner and you've caused some other problem to somebody else. So it's more of a review and a constant review, and keeping our staff on task to make sure that we keep it a level playing field for everybody and with these ordinances, because every time you pass a law, it's a reaction to something, and usually when you react to something, you've got a problem somewhere down the line later.
Is there any message you all have for developers? Because I know a lot of times, developers are trying to challenge you all, and they are trying to go against those rules and regulations, as Danielle talked about, just moving forward within these next 2 years.
I would like to phrase that a little different, because I don't feel like it necessarily that it's us against them when you're talking about developers. Right. I think it is. There's a certain you try to make a certain amount of dollars on each thing you do, and as you do that, you try to stretch the envelope to get the square footage so you can cover the cost of what you're trying to design. When you do that, you start getting outside of these trust lots and these different type lots that Savannah's founded on. So it's critical that as we go back and we keep working towards making this a viable historic district, that we always keep mindful and be sure that we take care of those lots. We keep our houses separated. If we got a garage, we got a garage. We can't take the garage and put it with the house and make it one whole building, because it changes the whole dynamics of what was originally put here in the Savannah area. So it's important that we keep those individual buildings, and we keep that trust lot. What was the other lot? There's a trust lot and there's tithing lot, trust lot. All of those concepts have to stay integrated into the development of our programs, and the size lots, the lanes, and all that have to go along with that, so that we do keep what we understand to be the historic district of Savannah. I don't know the word for it, but it's important that we keep that field that we're trying to develop around the whole, especially the new areas we start developing in the infills we put in.
So let me say one thing.
Yeah.
So going forward, I think it's important that the public knows a couple of things. Having sat in the conference call with the Alderman Durrance, the Mayor and Alderman Durrance, and National Park Services, it's important, from what I gather from staff, the parameters have been laid out, or there's a plan in terms of what we need to do. That was one thing, a takeaway for me. And the other important thing, so we have a roadmap of sorts, some guidelines. The other thing that I thought was pretty important was that the recognition that this is not just a City of Savannah issue, city government, but all of our partners, and I won't even name everybody who has a vested interest, who has skin in the game in terms of entities or organization. But the mayor recognizes that all of these representatives of each of these entities need to come to the table to form a panel to to reach agreement on the changes that need to be made going forward. So I just wanted to point that out, that there has been recognition that there'll be a collaborative effort to remove us from that threatened status, but City of Savannah won't be making those steps alone. Is that pretty clear?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so that's pretty clear? Yeah, so the mayor is going to direct city manager or staff to pull together a collaborative group to help us address these issues. And as the mayor said, he asked National Park Services to come back every 2 years, and he agreed to meet with us in a couple of weeks when he comes to Savannah. That's all I have to say.
Is there a timeline of when those groups will meet?
Well, we haven't set it up yet.
Okay.
But I would think pretty soon, though.
Yeah, they're gonna be at the meeting with Mr. Vogel. We hope to have that group together
Within a couple of weeks.
Within a couple of weeks, to see if we can. He's gonna be going to Fort Pulaski, so he agreed to drop by and stop and sit down and just kind of go over things and just talk to us. So we want to make sure we take that opportunity to get off the ground with them on the right foot and get that group together so they understand where he's coming from, and we can work as a group to get this problem taken care of, because it will take all of us. It's not one individual group that's going to make this happen.
That's the National Park Service you're meeting with in a couple
Yes.
weeks. Okay.
Thanks, folks. Nope, I think we got it all.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Thank y'all.